Hey everybody, this is Mark at Quadrajet Power, quadrajetpower.com. Customer sent me this carburetor off of an 81 Corvette. So this has the computer controlled system. It's a little bit different than most of them. This was early on. Going to disassemble this. Send it to us for build and cleaning. So I'm just going to pull it apart. Thought I would just share this process with you, talk a little bit about the computer systems here and how everything works. Of course, I check everything, see what everything is. It's an M hanger, CH secondary rods. I typically just go around the outside of the carburetor if I'm pulling it apart. Most everything on a computer controlled, well, a lot of it's similar to just a regular non-computer controlled carburetor. You got to watch out for several things. This is the throttle position sensor rod that goes into the TPS with the throttle position sensor electronics here. This is underneath the accelerator pump lever. So we gotta be careful with that. Okay, I got a basket here for all the parts because I'm gonna soak these and clean them, tumble them. Forgot to get that before I started. So okay, so now like I said, pretty much just go around the outside when I'm pulling one apart. I'm gonna clean the screws, but not the solenoid. That'll go back to the customer as it was. Okay, I'm gonna come around over here. Looks like they tried a new vacuum brake choke pull off. Must have been some kind of issue they were having. Of course, it's normally why we receive carburetors to builds, because there was issues. I do typically bag everything up. All the old parts that I take off, we're not going to reuse any soft parts. We replace typically everything. So I send back all the old pieces. I don't know, just they can all be thrown away typically, but sometimes it's good to keep spare stuff. Now that's a dirty fuel filter that is saturated. Probably part of a problem itself. This choke has the screw up here to retain it. Okay, so this choke is riveted on, so I'm going to drill this out. I'm going to remove the element. Start with a 9/64. There's that retainer. Second retainer. Third retainer's being a little stubborn. There it comes. Okay, third retainer's off, so now we can take the choke element loose. Now we can remove the choke housing. It's kind of interesting to me, and this is common with the C and the Corvettes, especially, that this is an 81 carburetor. Most everything had Torx bits and Torx screws and everything, and starting in the 80s, Corvettes didn't, their carburetors were still using the flathead and the Phillips, and I always found that kind of interesting. Don't know why, but fuel filter spring, forgot to get that out a while ago. Fuel filter spring will be thrown away. All these parts will be tossed out. Open the throttle blade just a little bit to get the choke piece. Remove the secondary lockout, which I'll do away with that. We'll clean it though and give it back to them. The internal choke rod and the actuator. Those come out. Okay, now got everything off. This was bent probably in shipping. Secondary. Okay, so now time to pull the air horn. Like I said, flathead screws on this, which is nice because that's most of the time that's what I'm working with, so I don't like to change the bits. Just a pain. These Chevrolet passenger vehicles. So this one still has, for Chevrolet, you know, the trucks went to a single main air bleed. Passenger vehicles kept the dual bleeds, and the bleed sizes were very large. They started that in 1970, and continues on this carburetor, even on the electronics. So this one's got the 120 thousandths main air bleeds. You can see down in here. Okay, air horn coming off. We got the TPS rod out of there. A little bit stuck on the, there we go. There's the underside of the computer controlled. We have the gasket for the MCS. Here's what's on the bottom side of the throttle position sensor, which you can see there. So this is the upper adjustable bleed, so that's flexible. There's the, that can be knocked out for adjustment for the APT internal. Anyway, that's the bottom side of that. All these parts are going to come off. This goes, I don't know what the name of that is. It sits over the primary rods. A lot of these, I've made up my own names through the years, even though I do, you know, go through the books and the training books and everything that Rochester had put out. So I'd seen all those. So here's an old accelerator pump with the black pump cup. Always throw these away. They're always, well, going back to the customer. Primary rods on these, so they're spring loaded. They sit down into the jets. I will pull the float cover off so you can see the jets. Much different than the earlier jets that were in the non-computer controlled. I'm going to look at these primary rods and see the size. These are a 55U for the primary rods. These primary rods aren't reproduced, so we have to reuse those. I'm going to pull the throttle position sensor out. This one's kind of stuck in place here. Well, I'll mess with that later. Okay, so I'm going to measure. I usually use a little silicone here. This is the same as a non-computer controlled. I'm going to measure the height of the APT screw. I'm going to screw it down, and I'm going to count the turns down. And then when I put it back, I keep note of that. When I put it back together, I'll bring it back to the same point. So there we got half, 1, 1.5, 2, 2 3/4, 2 1/4. So now we pull this out and we'll remove the MCS. There's a lot of different springs and stuff in the computer controlled that kind of intimidate a lot of folks. I guess it's I mean, there's different parts. If you haven't done one of these, and just take your time. Of course, get your parts from quadrajetpower.com. That would help support us and keep us doing what we love to do here. So the MCS will come out. I'll check the resistance on that. So internally, there's another spring that goes underneath the APT, underneath the MCS, below the APT, goes through it. This has the crazy float, which was in all the computer controlled units. I don't know where he got his kit for this, but that's interesting. The other spring that goes below the MCS before it goes to the bottom. You can see the jets in here now. Power piston, I mean, there is no power piston system in these. Needle and seat's the same. Has the check ball. Most of the secondary system is the same. Take out that baffle, clean it, put it back in. So now I'm gonna take out the jets. Where's my wrench? Well, when you don't have a wrench, use a pair of pliers. So once we get the jet loose, it'll come right out. These tools are very hard to find and very expensive. I believe the last time I saw this tool, it was almost $200. So if you have one, take good care of it. So these jets are marked on them too. So these are 74s. So we have 74 primary jets, 55 primary rods. So that's what we're dealing with here. Anyway, I'll check. Get my needle and seat tool. That's out of here. Check ball. Okay. I'm going to check the size of the idle tubes. This is a 33. No, smaller than 33. Thought they'd be a little larger because of the large main air blade. Okay, there's at 30. Broke through, had some crud in it. So 30 thousandths for the idle tubes. Down channel restrictions next to the idle tube. We can modify the idle circuit on these just like we can any Quadrajet to work. So a lot of people run, so it's 48 thousandths on the down channel restrictions. A lot of people run cams in their computer controlled engines. So taking out the idle tubes here. So the idle circuits can be modified. And yet another spring underneath the TPS. Okay. So now I'm going to pull the idle tubes. Yeah, going back where I was. The idle circuits can be modified. If you have modified an engine that's computer controlled and have the computer controlled carburetor, then they can certainly be modified so it can idle properly. The computer system is going to control the part throttle, mixture, and all. But anyway, a lot of people ask me that. Can you run a computer controlled carburetor on a modified? Maybe they've, done some cam work or compression. So I'm using a drywall screw. I tap down the tubes in the collars of the idle mixture screws. So these came out real easily. Some can be a giant pain. I pull them out on every build that I do can see it's got the collar here, so the tube's actually just slipped inside the collar. So now I'm going to tap it back down over here on the, so I can tap it back down into place so it's correct. And we'll resize those when we're done anyway. So that's the disassembly of the inside part of the computer controlled carburetor. I'm going to take the base off. I'm going to, of course, completely disassemble the base plate. Going to completely disassemble the air horn. But wanted you guys to see this on the computer controlled system, understand a little bit about it and the internals of it. You can see pretty much everything else is like any other Quadrajet, just has those pieces and extra springs that you got to be real careful with when you're disassembling. And take pictures if it's the first one you've done, so you know what parts go where, in case the spring does come flying out. A lot of these components we have replacements for. We have kits for these. We have new MCSs with the blue cover, not the black ones. Those are not reproduced. The blue ones are. The throttle position sensor, TPS, we've got those themselves. If you just want to do a replacement, we also have a kit that comes with the rod that goes in the air horn, the spring that goes underneath it, has all of those components. So if you've lost the spring or lost that rod, it's real common people lose that rod. So anyway, parts, quadrajetpower.com. Come check us out. Buy all your parts from us for any Quadrajet you have. We would appreciate your business. That's it for today. Thanks for watching, everybody.